Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Ryan Peach. What's going on, brother?
Oh man, it's so good. It's so good. I have a fun story to tell you about my adventure today, and I'm excited to share it with the guys. It involves me putting myself in a place of just getting punished for an hour. So it's fantastic. I'm excited to tell you guys about that. But doing great, doing really, really great. What about you?
Doing fantastic. Looking forward to your S&M story as we go into this podcast and hearing about you punished. It's a twist for us here at The Powerful Man, but I'm open to
Right.
it.
I'm really hoping to take us around a corner and really show you the darker side of things. So yeah, it's been an interesting and wonderful day.
Well, hit us with that story. You can't leave us hanging there with an open loop.
Oh, okay. All right. So I have a friend, and I mentioned to him that obviously in my work and trying to always live a better and better life. I said, my hips are getting tight in my old age. The ripe age of 36, things are starting to need a little more grease around the wheels. So he was like, cool, come by. He's a physical therapist, and he really is moving into functional medicine.
Love
Fantastic. So I go by his house, and he goes, runs me through some different exercises and different things. And okay, great. I think I have the thing for you. We're going to try some dry needling today. I was like, great. What's that? And this guy just proceeds to have me lay on my stomach and starts sticking like needles into my body in the places where it hurts the most.
Yep.
And he gets them in there, and like my body is involuntarily twitching and doing weird things. And then I was like, great, this is it. We're there. Like we've landed, the needles are in. It feels strange, but it's feeling better. He goes, okay, now you might feel this. And then he begins to twist them while they're in my body. And it was like borderline convulsions for me, just like shaking. And he's like, that's good. That's good.
I'm picturing you flipping around, like flopping around like a fish out of water.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was like. And thank God he was a friend, so I didn't have to pay him for this, because I don't like paying for my punishment. I usually like to get that for free. So I'm going to be sore for two or 3 days.
Great story. So for the one or two guys that are still with us on this show, that are still listening in, what were we talking about today?
So I thought it would be a really great idea to talk about what it is to be, or what it is that makes up a great leader, primarily in business, but also at home.
Fantastic. So kick it off. How do you define a great leader? I guess is the first question.
For me, the way I define a great leader is a person who obviously is out in front, right? But they are a person who is drawing their team to where they're going. They're not having to pull them and push and convince. It's through their actions and through the way that they communicate with their team. People are so excited to catch up with where that leader is. And so to me, that's what I think a great leader is.
Well, thank you very much. And then
not tell me what an actual great leader is.
No, what it is like what I would call attraction leadership was what you're talking about, is where you have the leader, in business, you see this. It's easy to delegate and tell people what you do, and almost have a Machiavellian style where it's rather to be feared than loved type of atmosphere. But, when you look at great leaders, they're not always out in front, so to speak, in the front of the view of the public, right? But because they're not there to take accolades. They're there to inspire through action with their communication and the other things that they're doing. And people, they want to step up and step into their greatness within their job role or whatever else it may be.
Yes. Yeah. And I feel like the leaders, from what I've seen, they are living it out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that it is for the company, they embody that to the fullest. And so again, it's like you said, it's attraction, right? Like, I'm a part of this organization, this movement, this idea, and here's this person who is out in front of the company, maybe not out in front of the public, but out in front of our company, and they're really living it out. They're not asking me to do anything that they're not already trying to do in their own life. And they're able to help guide me towards that place to be the best part in the company that we're growing.
Yep, absolutely. So let's talk about what that looks like in a few styles. There's obviously a lot of styles to leadership, but if you're cool with it, we'll call this attraction leadership.
Let's do it.
Uh, and how the men listening to this can do this not only in their business, but this leadership, like you're talking about, applies to your home life, right? You and I, before we hit record, we were talking about kids. Any guy here who's got kids knows exactly, like, trying to be the leader in your house, kids don't always cooperate. But you live by example, right? Your kids are just basically tape recorders, and they're watching you, and they're living out your mannerisms, your words, and your actions, the way that you interact with your partner, right? They're watching all of this, even when you think they're not looking. So how do you become an attraction leader, Ryan?
So for me, and this may seem obvious to some of these really, really smart guys that we have listening, but it starts with you. I think that you have to take a really great inventory of yourself. Oftentimes, it's really great to have really smart people around you that will give you more honest feedback about what they see. But I think that starts with, okay, I need to understand where I am succeeding and where I'm failing, both just individually and as a leader. And so again, there's assessments you can take. I like to surround myself with really smart people and have them ask me really difficult questions. But I think that it really begins with getting really clear on where your strengths are and where improvements need to happen, or where you just need to be okay not being great and hire greatness in that place.
I love it. So I love what you're saying there. And I'll take it, in my opinion, go back one step if I can. And the way it worked for me, the way I've worked on this, and I'm, as you know, and everybody listening that's ever met me knows, I'm the biggest work in progress there is, that's out there. But I think you almost want to have an archetype that you're trying to follow, right? So before you can figure out your shortcomings, so to speak, you need to figure out where you're trying to hit, right? What is the metric or the level that you're trying to hit now? There's different people that come up. Maybe it's somebody that's already exists. You hear Steve Jobs' name thrown around a lot as, a great leader of a company, not a great leader of people, right? That you hear about what he does. And then you have Richard Branson, right? Who's out public facing. Now, these people are out in front, but maybe you have somebody in your own life that has exemplified a great leader, a coach, a teacher previously that you followed, or another man. Maybe it's Ryan Peach, who happens to be a great leader in himself. And then establish that archetype. And movies are a great way to do this, by the way, guys, because those are archetypes that are really well defined already. And then you can look at your shortcomings, as Ryan is saying, and see where you're falling short of that archetype of personality that you want to be. And again, this could be business, could be your personal life. Who's the dad that you wanna be like, right? Who's the husband you want to be? And look at those areas and where are you falling short? Geez, I'm arguing with my wife, or I'm not home cutting the grass on Saturday. And Ryan, I talked to Mark, who's one of our coaches, and he had a great story. I was talking to him just before this, and he had a great story about how, sometimes he'll just get up and do something he knows his wife wants him to do without being asked, because that is an example. He's leading within his family, he's leading within his relationship.
Yes, and I love that. I had a conversation with a friend of mine this morning. We were down at the beach and we were just talking back and forth, honestly, about leadership. He runs his own company, and we were just having this back and forth. And he ended up asking me more about what we do at the Powerful Man, and the conversation turned to doing things out of love, outside of instead of expectation. And I said, for me in the past, the way that I was coming into doing dishes, laundry, back rubs, taking the kids out, was all with some sort of covert contract, right? That I had made, that I'm going to do this nice thing, and then I'm going to get XYZ at the end, right? Sex, appreciation. I'm going to get a night out on the town, whatever that thing was. And of course, none of this is shared with my wife. And then what happens, right? She doesn't know about it. So she doesn't say anything about it. So then I'm just more frustrated and more frustrated. And so then I finally blurted out at the end, right? Well, do we not have sex tonight or not? Are we going to have sex? And like, no, it's super unattractive, to come on to me that way, Ryan. No, we won't. And so then now, exactly like Mark said, is it comes from a place of, I know that this matters to her. She doesn't need to tell me or ask me to do it. I'm going to do it because I love her. And that's the result that I want. Is I want her to feel loved. I want her to feel respected and valued. And then everything else that comes after that is great. And we see that in business as well, where my dad used to talk about this all the time, where, you can never get good help anymore, right? That's been the age old story of business owners and entrepreneurs for as long as I have worked with them, right? It's always, you can never find good help anymore. And what you see is that these people, men, have hired people to come and work on their team, and they've been given really no idea of what their expectation is, and what the culture is like, how we do things around here. They're kind of thrown to the wolves. And when they just make that work for themselves, whether that's showing up 5 minutes late to work, whether that is lying to you so they can get off work early and still get their paycheck, if whatever that ends up being, the leader, in my case was my dad. He would just say, "You guys are always trying to get one over on me." And I'm like, well, okay. Or you've not accurately created a path for them to know what success and failure looks like in your business, and you've come at it from a place of covert contracts and expectations.
Yeah. Well, that's a well said. And in my experience, Ryan, a lot of the complaints, I hear that complaint from business leaders all the time. And it comes out differently. One over on me, can't find good help, they're lazy, what have you. And oftentimes there's a theory in psychology called mirroring, right? Where the complaints you have about others are things that you're actually doing or worries that you may do yourself.
Yes.
And when we look at this idea of being the attractive leader, the attraction leader that pulls people in, it reminds me of a story when I was hearing you talk about a leader, and here's a boss who wasn't very outgoing, very introverted, and what have you. And he shows up to the office, right? It was a remote office, and there's piles of boxes lying around, in the office, of clearly that the administrative staff just hadn't taken care of, right? And everybody sits down to the meeting. They have a meeting. You're talking what are your numbers, what's going on, profit loss, where accounts receivable, etc. And people get up for a break. And this guy gets up, takes off his jacket, rolls up his sleeves, and begins to put things away. Doesn't say a word. There's no expectation. He just gets to work. And what you see is everybody else follow suit. Now, they're not following suit, and this is important. They're not following suit because they're afraid they're going to get fired or something bad's going to happen. But they're watching him take action, inspired action, with something simple, right? Now, this guy happened to do it with big things too. He sees a problem, he goes after it. He just goes right away and goes to work and doesn't have to make a lot of fanfare about it. And the people around him loved him for that. I mean, loved him as a person, as a human for that, because he didn't say, "Hey, Doug, that's your job," or "Ryan, that's your job to clean this up. Why is it messy?" He just saw something and went and did it and just took care of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that I could not agree more, with that, because attitude reflects leadership, right? It was one of my favorite quotes from Remember the Titans, the movie. And if you spend
Great
enough time,
movie.
I'm going to quote that 1,000 times. I just love that movie. But that's exactly right. People watch your actions way more than they watch your words, right? And so there's a difference in saying, "I need you to go do this task. I want you to go do this task," versus showing them when they step into the organization, showing them that this is how we do that task, and giving them a really clear education of what that looks like. And then once that task is given to them, supporting them with firmness, love, grace, understanding, teaching, those types of things, rather than them walking in the door, having no idea what it is to work for you and say, these are the things I need you to do because I don't want to deal with them. Like, okay, we're an organization where we put things on people when we don't want to deal with them. Got it. That's the culture that we have. And so for the leaders that are listening to this, when you take a look at your organization, if you feel that your employees aren't giving you the best, or if they're lazy, or if they're always trying to get one over on you, or you're constantly in a turnover mode, I think it might be time to really look in the mirror and take an evaluation of yourself and how you're leading. And if you have a big company, how are you leading? How are your leaders leading? And how are your managers leading your people? I think it always starts from the top and trickles down.
Always. And this also goes at home, guys. So everything we're talking about, Ryan's saying here about business, we're going to keep on the business thread here, but I also want some of you guys, because I know some of you that are listening to this regularly, this directly applies to your home life as well. And so, Ryan, when we're coming into this attraction leader that you're seeing here, and transparently, we had this conversation within the leadership teams within the Powerful Man about becoming a better leader, becoming a better communicator, staying out of people's way, things of that nature. What are some other things that somebody that is desiring to become an attraction leader and have attraction leadership, what are some other things they can do?
So especially when it comes to being at home, I think that it's really important for you to, and guys, I know this took me a long time to accept and be okay with. It starts everything, in my opinion, now starts with taking care of yourself, putting yourself first, as a leader in your business and at home. When you are sacrificing yourself for others at the detriment of yourself, that puts a lot of pressure on the other people in your life. That was something that my wife communicated to me, right? She said, it feels like your happiness is fully dependent on me. And Ryan, that's a lot of pressure. And I was just like, holy, I didn't see it that way, but it was right. Allie, can I go work out? Allie, I want to go out with friends. Is it okay if I do that? Allie, this, Allie, that. She's like, stop asking me things. It is important for you to take care of yourself. Book those things into your schedule and just go do them. And so, guys, if you want to lead others well, it starts with leading yourself really well.
100%, right? You need to be to quote overuse one, but be the change and be that person first with yourself, whether it be in the business or at home, to do it. So an example we talk about, or when I see it, when I think of leaders, we talk about the first to show up, the last to leave. That's one thing, if that's the example you're trying to set. Another example could be, hey, just get it done. It might take you 8 hours, might take you an hour. I don't care, right? I'm looking for results, not time going through there. And a lot of that comes down to, as you said, Ryan, communicating expectations, communicating standards, which also comes down to just communicating. Really takes, as a leader in your business or anywhere else, it only takes another few seconds to take a pause and come in and say something really nice. But nobody wants to be told what to do without a why. Why am I doing this? Or felt like they're an employee or just a task rabbit. Nobody wants to feel that way.
That's right. And we've talked about this before, but everybody has an emotional bank account, right? And you have got to be making deposits into that before you ever go to try to make a withdrawal. Yeah. And that's something as a leader you really have to monitor. Like, you have to know, like, if I've been riding Doug really hard for the last couple of weeks, he's showing great improvement, but today, he missed the mark today. I need to make sure that Doug and I are in a good place, that Doug knows that I value him before I go to criticize him. because criticism is great, right? Constructive criticism is incredibly important. But if you come at them and they feel beat up and beat down that they can't do anything right, and you go to let them know the next thing that they're not doing right, eventually, like, no one wants to feel that way all the time. So eventually they're going to really despise you, your organization, and they're going to leave. And that happens at home too, right? Like, if your wife feels, again, that nothing she does is ever enough, eventually she's going to get fed up and be like, yep, it's me, I'm broken, or he's a jerk, he's broken, this isn't working. And so being really mindful of, okay, where are we right now? What is the temperature of this relationship? I want to make sure that you know you're valued first, and then let's have those critical conversations.
Yeah, I think, and again, this applies right to home, right? As you said. And we look at, leadership in business. One of the lessons I've learned running businesses for over 20 years is that nobody deliberately screws up, right? And if you have someone on your team that deliberately screws up, that's your fault for hiring that person, right?
Exactly.
That's all there is to it. But nobody sets out to screw up. And if you have that paradigm in your head of, that this person made a mistake, it's a mistake, right? And then you want to educate them. Now there could be a personality thing that, they just can't do the job function or what have you. Then you got to go back to the basics, right? Where's your hiring system? This person slipped through the cracks. But when we talked about being an attraction leader, people want to be inspired, right? They don't want you just to critique them. It's good to get how you can do better, right? And ask them and get honest feedback. And as a leader, you better be willing to accept honest feedback, right?
It's like
You
exactly where I was
better,
going.
yeah, you better be willing to sit there and ask for stuff. So, within the Powerful Man movement, it's a movement of men, but we still have to operate in some ways like another organization or a business would do it. And I think from the top down, and I'll give, Tim a lot of credit here, is Tim is constantly asking for feedback and ways that he can course correct, because we're growing so fast. I mean, the movement of men that are coming on board, and when men come on board and they transform their lives, they want to help other men. So the Powerful Man's growing so fast, and Tim is constantly asking for feedback, right? You go from managing one person to 20 people to 50 to 100 to 300. That's a big difference of the leader you get to be. And I see you shaking your head there. Absolutely. That's an example of attraction leadership, is people seeing that, yeah, you messed up as a leader, but you're willing to course correct. Okay, I can put up with that mess up. I can put up with the shortness. I can put up with whatever else there is, because I know you're doing the best that you can.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, case in point, last night. Now this is from my own relationship with my wife, but applies to business and across. Is last night was men's night. We were going to go out and be with the boys, and I ended up being gone exceptionally long yesterday, and my wife was full on with the kids. And if your wife is anything like mine, she's been 4 or 5 months on with the kids. So there's a lot of grace that needs to be extended in that regard. I walked in the door and I could just see it, like she was like, don't leave me again. And I immediately was just walked in the door and I said, I'm not going tonight. I'm not going. And she said, you can go. I said, I know I can. I'm not going. I can see it on you. I'm not going. And I said, she goes, great. Well, our friends, they had invited us over. I just didn't want to tell you because I knew you were excited about this thing. And I said, boom, let's go. That sounds great. So getting ready. And my wife says, oh, her friend really just wants to go hang with the girls. Is it okay if she just goes out with the girls? Now I'm like, oh, it was guys' night. Now it's girls' night. Are you serious? But instead of overreacting, right, and getting upset and throwing a temper tantrum, and she's just not a good wife, right? They're just not a good employee, right? They're just screwing up like they always do. I asked questions. I asked very critical questions. I was like, and I explained how I felt. I said, okay, I got to be honest, I'm a little hurt here because I gave up guys' night to spend time with you to like fill your cup. And now you're leaving me with the kids to go do your own thing. Like that kind of sucks. She was then able to explain, our friend is going through a really hard time. They just found out they had a miscarriage, and her friend needed her friends last night. And it instantly, I gathered, right, rather than flying off the handle, I gathered all of the information. I didn't lie about how I felt. I was upset. But the moment I had the truth, switch, I was like, I'm full in. I've got the kids. You go spend time with her friend. When they're done, tomorrow night, I'm going to go out. We're going to go drink a bourbon with this guy. And I'm going to like let him know how much he is loved. And we are going to be the best friends to these people. And through all of that, I was able to manage my emotional state to understand that I didn't have the full picture. And by taking the time to ask questions and get the full picture, I was able to see like, oh yeah, my wife's human too. Saw her friend in need, didn't think about me because she didn't need to, and just acted. And maybe I would have acted differently. Maybe I wouldn't have. But I was able to lead us to that point where she felt really good about that decision last night. And I had one of the best nights with my kids that I've had in weeks. So for leaders, I think it's really important to be able to see the bad situations and understand like it's okay to be emotional, to be hurt, to be upset, to have these feelings. You don't have to push those down, but remember that you probably don't have the full story. And let's go ask some questions. Everybody explain how they feel, and then let's work to a solution that brings us closer together, doesn't push us further apart.
Absolutely. I love that. I would have just left and gone out to guys' night, but you're a better man than I am. And what it comes down to, a lot of this, guys, we'll wrap up here in a second, but it comes down to, who's the leader that inspires you to be a better leader? Who's the leader that you're watching or you're reading about? What is it that inspires you? And can you be that person, right? Can you be that person in your own organization? And look at the trends that you have, right? Are you snappy with your staff or at home? Or are you lazy? Are you waiting to horse trade, right? You do this for me and then I'll do it for you, right? Or are you the type of person that takes the bull by the horns and just gets it done without expectation, without the need to be seen, the need for accolades, and things of that nature? Where are you in your leadership journey? And, who are those people that inspire you? Inspire, right? It's a definition of it. Who inspires you to take action and be the best that you could be? And are you being like that person? So Ryan, let's wrap this up and give these guys a couple actionable steps that they could take today to move in this direction.
Sure. So I think just what you're talking about, I think a first great step for them is to figure out what that, model is for them, right? What does being a great leader, who do you look up to? What are their attributes? And so doing that, and guys, anytime you spend time with me, I'm going to tell you, you need to stop, sit down, and actually do this work. I know it sounds good, and you'll be driving and you'll hear it in your head, or you'll be in the gym. And listen, I get it. I know I've walked away from really great podcasts and done nothing with the information too. I totally get it. But I'm telling you, take the 15 minutes and write out who that person or persons are and what are those attributes? Why do those stick out to you? And then figure out, do I feel like I'm hitting at that level? And if I'm not, boom, I found my course correction. I figured out where I need to do some work.
Love it. Absolutely love it. So guys, like Ryan said, in the moment of any insight, take massive action here. Make sure you stop and do this. Leadership is so important. We could do 100 podcasts on this. Ryan is the Powerful Man's expert in culture and innovation. He's really changed things around. So he's a wealth of information. Ryan, love to have you back on for another show. We can talk more about this. Guys, as always, go over to thepowerfulman.com/bonus to get a free training. That's thepowerfulman.com/bonus and get your free training. And as Ryan said, take some action. Take action today and be that inspired leader that you know you can be. Guys, have an amazing day. Ryan, thanks again for being here, and we'll see you next time on The Powerful Man Show.